Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode on the show, Control or Be Controlled, a podcast designed to help you start thinking differently and take control of your life. Our guest today is Dustin Jensen. Dustin, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, so I would like you to introduce yourself to my audience. Please make the introduction so good that they can understand what we are getting into.
Make it so good that they can understand what they're getting into. Ooh, that's a high stake introduction. Well, yeah. My name's Dustin. I have had a career mostly in working with high growth startups as a fractional executive. So I typically come into companies after they've raised some funding, got a little bit of traction, but they're needing to take that next step into growth. That would include marketing, sales, what their business model, how they're going to scale, and just start moving them to the next phase. And it also, that role typically brings me a little bit in on the other side of the business, which, involves the product and product development, and getting involved in those aspects because, you can always have a product that goes to market, but you have to understand what the market signals are and what the market is saying about it and try to adjust from there. So even though I'm not a product development person, I've always gotten drawn into that. So how did I get here today? Well, historically, I worked with a lot of tech companies and supplement companies and manufacturers. And about 2.5 years ago, I got introduced to this product, which was ICF. And the funny thing is when I got introduced to it, I didn't have any experience in the building industry. I'm not even good at fixing stuff around my house, but I had a colleague that I worked with introduce me to this new product. And so I started interacting with the company. But it was fascinating. As I started learning more and more about the product and what the product meant, the more I was like, this is kind of interesting. So we've got this building material that seems to be far superior than others, but why is it having an adoption issue? Why is it struggling to get market traction? And why isn't this the way everyone's building? And so that curiosity drew me to the company to understand. And then I started to learn, well, okay, I see what they're dealing with. They're dealing with the David and Goliath type of story. They're dealing with these industries that have been around for 100 plus years, building with wood. They've got lobbyists throughout the whole building ecosystem. They're fighting these kind of innovations. And that was the moment where, if you want to know the kind of person I am, I thought, well, that is a fight that I'm willing to take on. I want to be part of the company that's going and fighting these Goliath companies. They've got all this traction and come out on the other side, the winner. And that makes the main goal of our company is to become the new building standard.
Okay, Dustin, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. So let's start with the problem. You argue that the housing crisis is partly a wall problem, right?
Correct. Yes.
So what exactly is failing inside the walls we are building today?
So the problem is we're building with methods that are built on just the idea of saving money and bringing down the cost. And when you talk to most people, that sounds like a good way of doing business, right? We want to build these homes for the lowest cost possible, and in that you're keeping housing affordable, and it has been the mantra. Every time I talk to a new contractor or builder, or even a person building a home, the first thing they ask is, what is the price? And that's the problem. They're asking, what is the price? They're not asking, what is going to be the performance of my structure? how long is my structure going to last? Is the structure actually going to protect me? And in the case of standard building methods like stick framing and CMU block, the answer is no, it's not going to protect you. That's why when hurricanes come through, it's wiping out complete communities and killing people. And then in the Palisades, the same thing. This is the Pacific Palisades in California. It's a very high end, very wealthy community, and still most of this town got wiped out by a fire. And these are multi-million-dollar homes. So, there is a systemic problem with the way we're building. And the reason people don't move away from that is cost was the first argument. But when you take ICF and you add up, and I can explain a little bit more of the products, but I want to kind of introduce the wall problem. When you add it all up, a lot of times it's not more expensive to build the other way. And in the long-term savings, and when I mean long-term, it could be 2-5 years, you're net positive on that home from your energy savings, maintenance issues, and so on. Because a lot of homes today in which it's shown are, a lot of these large building companies are being sued. They're in class action lawsuits for building bad structures that after a couple of years already start having issues. We shouldn't have brand new homes that are already dealing with mold and structural issues. And that's what we're dealing with. And what's causing that, even if you can show a cost reason, what's happening is the builders and the ecosystem saying, well, but we're going to do it the way that we've always done it. We're going to build this way. We've already learned how to do it this way. This is how we're doing it. We're going to keep doing it. And that's the wall problem.
Okay, Dustin. So builders are dealing with rising costs, labor shortages, tighter energy requirements, and construction defects. How much of this can actually be traced back to the way buildings are constructed?
Well, there's several. So on the building industry, so builders and general contractors and people building that build new construction, they're dealing with several market pressures. They're, like you said, we're dealing with labor shortages. So how does the type of material affect labor shortages? Well, okay, if you're going to build a certain way, whether you're if you're a mason or you're a framer that frames in homes and things like that, that's a skilled trade. That requires a certain set of tools and a certain set of skills and a certain amount of time learning how to do that. And so when you have a building method like that, and you have the new workforce coming up that is not learning those trades or acquiring those tools, and you have an old workforce that's starting to retire out that's doing that, you have a labor shortage. There's a general labor shortage, but it's much worse in the building industry. And that's directly tied to the material, because the type of material is the method. And then rising energy costs, that's absolutely the way we build, because when most homes are terribly energy inefficient, they're just not efficient at all. And then you have insurance rise costs because, well, insurance are going to look at a home and they're going to say, what's the risk of a loss? And they do a risk analysis. And in the case of places like the Pacific Palisades in California, the insurance companies pulled out because the risk is too high. They cannot insure those homes. And if they do, it's an increased premium. So we, with the product that we manufacture, that's actually coming in and solving every single one of those market pressures. So, without fully understanding the product, our product has an R38, which means, in homes like a home in Colorado, it had an 80-degree day and a 40-degree night. And their HVAC didn't even turn on. That's how efficient that home is. It maintained its heat and its temperature without any HVAC. So that right there is dropping energy costs. Insurance, well, when you're building with our product, which is basically a reinforced concrete structure sandwiched with an insulated form, it can withstand 250 mile an hour wind. It can take a direct flame. It's a built-in moisture barrier. So all those issues that are destroying homes, you no longer have those issues. And from a labor shortage stance, now you've got all these systems, 7 different systems that you would need skilled trades to do. It's all inside of one material. And just let me describe our product, the polyurethane ICF block. It's literally a block that you stack like a Lego that stays in place. You put rebar in the middle and you pour the concrete. That doesn't require a skilled trade. You can teach someone in the matter of months how to build with this product. So there's not a skilled labor issue to be able to build with this product.
Okay, so Dustin, you point out that one major home builder set aside more than $1 billion for construction defect claims. What does that tell us about the weakness in the current building system?
Well, it goes back to the people that are just, what is the cost? What is the cost? And that's what these home builders do. So when you talk about the companies like D.R. Horton, Lennar, all the major home builders, they're going through and constructing these entire neighborhoods. All they're thinking about is cost. And they'll say, hey, they're up to code. It's code minimum. But code minimum is not enough. If code minimum was not enough, there would not be a class action lawsuit. It's just because most people that are going in and buying these homes from these builders, as far as they know, these are good structures. They look nice. They on the outside, they look really nice. They look like a sturdy home. Inside, everything looks modern and brand new. And so you get this sense of security that's a home. But if you open up that wall, what you have is a wall with all these fragmented systems. You got insulation stuffed in there. You've got wood, which is like firewood, attracting termites. It gets moisture. And and this all happens really fast, meaning it's not a matter of 10 or 20 years. In the matter of a couple years, these homes already start having defects. So why there's a lawsuit is because homeowners are like, well, wait a second. This is ridiculous. I bought a brand new home and I'm already having issues. And that's just not right. These homes shouldn't have issues for many, many, many years. A home should be built to last. You take out a 30-year mortgage, your home should be able to last 30 years. They're not going to. These modern homes, and that's why there's such a big remodel industry, because even a home that was built 30 years ago has to be remodeled, and we should be building homes that are going to last 100 years, but we're not. And now people are starting to hold the builders accountable for that.
Okay, so we have identified 2 major barriers that held ICF technology back: the material itself and the manufacturing infrastructure. Walk us through those problems.
So we've just talked about the problem. And I like to call it fragmented walls. We just talked about what is fragmented walls, which is where you build and you add in all these layers to get a complete wall. Where the market is starting to move towards is what we would call an integrated wall. So that means that all these systems are collapsed into one system. So for the last 30 years, the ICF industry, the insulated concrete form industry, which what makes up this integrated wall, has been using styrofoam, EPS, the same thing that those cheap coolers you buy at the store that are disposable, basically. That's what the material that they're using. Now, the problem with that material is it's very fragile. If you punch it, it'll break apart. If you poke your finger, it'll break apart. It absorbs moisture, and then it attracts pests. And even though it is non-combustible from a fire stance, when you put a flame to it, it melts. And so when you look at all those limitations from a material stance, you're just not going to get the amount of adoption you want. Insurance companies are going to be like, well, I don't know. This looks nice. Maybe it's a great improvement, but you've got all these other issues within the block that's still causing you to have to add things like moisture barriers and things like that. You're having to add another system to make sure that the fire doesn't actually reach the block. And so it's not a complete system. It's not actually a complete integrated. It's a good step forward, not complete. So that's why we've introduced a different type of ICF, which is polyurethane. And the difference in that is a building material, and it's much stronger and rigid. For example, if you go to try to hit it with push it with your finger or punch it, nothing's going to happen. It's not going to break apart. And it's closed cell, so it doesn't absorb moisture. Pests are not attracted to it. And also with a direct flame, it doesn't melt. Nothing happens. It chars a little bit. It gets a little bit black. But all you're having to do is on a home, if a wildfire came through, you're not having to replace the wall or the structure. You're just having to replace maybe the siding or something like that. That's it. Whatever decorative thing that you had on the outside of the house, but the structure will stand. And so that gives more confidence. That's a real building material. And the other problem with the competitors is that their manufacturing process is much more industrial. So a lot of the companies out there manufacturing the product, they have to partner up with these existing factories that make the polyurethane or the polystyrene beads, for like coolers and all the things that they make it for, styrofoam cups, I guess, things like that. They have to team up with them. So it limits where they can set up geographically, and the cost to set up is very expensive, the time frame, and it's very industrialist. Our process, even though the material is superior, our manufacturing process is much simpler. Ours is even simple enough to the point where we can actually containerize our manufacturing process, and we could ship it to somewhere else and have someone go there, and it could be set up in a matter of days. And so it's a lot more modular, a lot smaller, and we can still do commercial level manufacturing at that size. And why that is an advantage is because ICF is very expensive to ship, and so you need to get as close to the customer as you can. Now, because of that, a lot of our competitors have to work with distributors and resellers. With us, we are able to build factories that get really close to the customer. And it also puts us in a position to be able to scale internationally, because a lot of these companies couldn't find partners in other countries to be able to manufacture the product. Anywhere where there's a building and enough electricity, we can set up a factory.
Okay. So Dustin, finally, okay, not finally though. Let's talk about the monolith system. When you say one block, one pole, what does that actually look like on a construction site?
Could you repeat the question? I didn't quite hear the question.
Sorry.
Could you repeat that question? I'm sorry.
Let's talk about monolith system. When you say one block, one pole, what does that actually look like on a construction site?
So how does that look? It's very, very simple. Um, all you have to do is stack our block, you put a little bit of bracing on it to hold it, put the rebar in, pour the concrete, you're done. You have a complete wall that is moisture resistant, weather resistant, has an R value of R38, performance R value of R65 plus, fire resistant, can withstand 250 mile an hour plus wind. It has good sound attribution, meaning you can't hear the sound. And that's all happening by stacking a single block. Well, you have to stack multiple. What I'm saying is it's one material, one product. So to build a complete wall, you only need to have one crew to come out there and stack the block and pour the concrete. So essentially, you could put up 4 walls and have all 4 walls stacked, put up, and concrete poured in a single day. No problem, with a single crew. And so how's that different? Well, traditional other building materials, that could require 5, 6, 7 crews. All people with different skill sets and different set of tools and a different set of material to get that wall up. And even with all those inputs, their wall still does not perform to an integrated wall system like ours. So it really is that simple. I mean, even kids, if the blocks only weigh 9 pounds, even a kid could go stack the block, and the skill to learn how to do that. It's not, I mean, everything has people that are good at it and not good at it. But it doesn't take long to get through the learning curve on building with this product. It's just that simple.
All right. So, Dustin, you have a philosophy that's already running beats that you have a philosophy that's already running beats great idea. What have you learned about the difference between scaling a real operating company and simply pitching an exciting concept?
Well, so we're actively looking for people to build with us, and maybe people to we're looking for investors and things like that. And this is not a concept. We're not envisioning this new product that's going to go out and change the way people build. We are manufacturing and shipping and building structures now. And we're already getting feedback from people that are just talking about, how great and how easy it is to build with the product. We had one homeowner, they had a review, and they literally said that they had an 80-degree night and a 40 or 80-degree day and a 40-degree night up in the mountains in Colorado, and their HVAC never even kicked on. That's how efficient that home stays. It stays a comfortable temperature in those temperature swings. And so we're already having people talk about that. So our product is already changing the building industry, and we know it's changing it because we're hitting a lot of headwinds. I mean, people are fighting us. You have builders trying to talk people out of the product. You have competitors. People are trying to slow us down, because as our product progresses, more people use it. There's just no reason to build the other ways. And yes, we already talked, like, cost shouldn't be the conversation. But if cost is the conversation, it's a heck of a lot cheaper and faster to build a lot of structures if you only have one thing that you have to stack and build with. And so I guess what I'm saying is we're doing this. We're out there. We're doing it. We're not talking about how we're changing the industry. We're doing it now.
All right. So, Dustin, construction is a massive industry with deeply established relationships, regulations, processes, and habits. How do you convince builders to change something they have been doing for decades?
How do you convince builders? See, that's probably the hardest question to answer, because it's really hard to convince a builder to do it that way, because they've already got a system that makes them money. And so it's hard for them to want to switch, from that system. So convincing them, it is very, very, very difficult. But this is what we're doing. We're not going to sit around and try to convince the builders that won't be convinced. We're trying to build an ecosystem of builders and contractors that want to do it the right way, and build this way, and show them that, hey, there is a better business model. When you're able to put up homes, if you're going to build a multifamily home or an apartment, speed to market saves money. And if you're able to cut down your construction time by 6 months and reduce your crews down by half, and you don't have to deal with all these other materials, which the price is rising. I mean, the cost of wood and everything else is rising every day. There is a real argument that, hey, this can be more profitable from a builder stance. But the thing is we're no longer do we really have to be the one to convince them? The market is telling them. The government is telling them. They're raising energy requirements. They're getting sued. People are tired of having unsafe structures and, structures that fall apart. And the market is forcing them to have to do something different. And we're that other method that allows them to do that. So at the end of the day, we're not going to be the one that has to convince them. The market's telling them.
All right. So, if Monolith succeed in scaling, what could the construction industry look like 5 or 10 years from now?
I think for us, our vision for the industry is, first, we want to get rid of all the middle people and terrible customer service. And what we mean by that is we don't want to do the normal thing where we manufacture product and use distributors to get the product out. The way that we see the industry is we want to be the manufacturer that's working directly with the solution providers, which would be the builders, the people building these resilient homes. And what we, as we're rolling that out and we're building more factories and we're becoming the new standard, well, that's exactly what I see the industry going. We are absolutely in 5 years going to move from fragmented wall systems that fall apart to integrated wall systems that actually can withstand, you know, category 5 hurricanes, can withstand tornadoes, can take a direct fire and doesn't absorb moisture so that your house is molding and falling apart. That's what we're going to have in 5 years. And as people start seeing what a real structure that's supposed to protect you looks like, then yeah, no longer is the industry going to accept, builders building from basically a bunch of sticks, wood that's just going to burn and fall apart.
All right. So, and finally, if you could change one thing about the way we currently build homes across North America, what would it be and why?
Number one thing is stop making the first question cost. That is not the right question. You build structures to protect yourself, protect your family, protect your loved ones, protect your property, protect your business. It's there as shelter to protect us. Stop starting with costs. Yes, costs, expenses, everything, it all matters. It does matter. But that is not the first question you should be asking.
So, what's the first question you should be asking?
How do I build a structure that's going to last and protect what I love, my family, my business? You should be asking, what is this structure going to do for me, not how much it's going to cost.
Okay, Dustin, thank you for joining me today on the show. Finally, is there a question you wish I would have asked you that I did not ask you? Maybe something you would like to share with my audience that I did not ask you?
Well, I covered it, but the biggest question I asked early on is why hasn't this material become more popular? If it's this great and if it solves that many problems, then why aren't more people building with it? And it's just simple. People are just stuck in doing things the way that they've always done it. And so what I try to invite people to say is, let's look at this. If builders are being sued and structures are falling down, houses are burning down, we need to start asking, how should we actually be building? And it isn't the old way, because that's failing us.
Okay, thank you so much. So, for those who would like to connect with you, who want to tune into the new way of construction, who want to learn more about you and this new way, how can they do that?
They can just go to our website, buildmonolith.com. And if you go out there and fill out the form, we'll reach out to you that day.
Okay, thank you so much. And to my audience, thank you guys. I love you guys so much. I know this episode is speaking to you. As always, make sure to share it with someone out there who might need to hear this. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys on the next episode. Bye, guys. Thank you, Dustin. It's been a pleasure having you on
Yeah,
the show.
thank you.